Do you think you know everything about breeding quail? At first glance, they seem like very simple birds, almost a barnyard ornament giving us those tiny speckled eggs. But behind that discreet plumage hides a biological machine with secrets that would leave even an experienced poultry producer speechless. Today, we are not going to talk about the basics. Forget about feeder types or cage designs. Today, we are opening Pandora's box and diving deep into their intimacy. We are going to explore the strangest, most curious, and fascinating mysteries of their reproductive cycle. Facts that most manuals ignore, but that every true breeder should know to truly understand what happens inside their coop. If you want to stop being a simple amateur, connect with the nature of your birds, and understand the pure magic that happens when a male and a female cross. Get ready, because these are the 12 things you didn't know about quail reproduction. Let's begin. 1. The fastest and wildest mating in the coop. Anyone who has bred chickens knows the rooster has a ritual. He dances, drops a wing, courts the hen, and then proceeds to mount her. Well, the male Coturnix quail has no time for romance. His reproductive instinct is one of the most aggressive, fast, and frantic in the entire poultry world. A male quail in the prime of his sexual maturity is governed by such a high level of testosterone that his only goal in life is to perpetuate his genetics at all costs. The mating lasts just a couple of seconds. The male chases the female, grabs her tightly by the neck feathers or the back of the head with his beak, and copulates almost explosively. This behavior is so intense that a single male can mount the females in his covey dozens of times in a single day. As breeders, understanding this ferocity is vital. That is why it is a massive mistake to put one male with just one female, or to have too many males in the same space. The intensity of this reproductive instinct will end up tearing the feathers right off the females' heads, causing severe injuries and stopping their egg production due to extreme stress. It is a wild dance, designed by nature to ensure rapid fertility before a predator can reach them. 2. The weird truth behind the male's white foam. If you have ever handled a reproductively active adult male and gently pressed near his vent, you were probably startled to see a sort of white foam ball pop out, looking a lot like shaving cream. Relax, fellow breeder, your bird is not sick. You are looking at one of the most exclusive anatomical oddities of the quail, the Proctodeal gland. No other commercial poultry bird has this. Many beginners confuse this foam with semen, but it is actually a completely different fluid. This gland produces this dense foam that accompanies the sperm during mating. Its function? It is an absolute masterpiece of biology. The female's reproductive tract is a naturally hostile and acidic environment for sperm. The foam acts as a protective shield, a biological buffer that neutralizes the pH of the female's oviduct and drastically increases the mobility and survival of the sperm. Additionally, it serves as a temporary plug to prevent the semen from leaking out immediately after the lightning-fast copulation. For an elite breeder, this foam is the best informant on the homestead. If you see a lot of foam on the dropping trays, it means your males are at their peak fertility and ready to guarantee an excellent rate of fertilized eggs. 3. The strange biological clock of their ovaries. If you go to the chicken coop early in the morning, chances are you will find the vast majority of the day's eggs freshly laid. Hens are morning birds for ovulation. However, quail decided to set their biological clock backwards. They have an absolute preference for the afternoons and evenings. Almost 75% to 80% of the daily production of a quail covey happens between 4 in the afternoon and 10 at night. This is due to how their endocrine system responds to the light cycle. Ovulation in the quail, the moment the yolk detaches from the ovary to start forming a new egg, happens just minutes after she has laid the previous egg. Since the entire egg assembly process inside her oviduct takes approximately 22 to 24 hours, her cycle naturally shifts toward the later hours of the day. Knowing this peculiar reproductive clock completely changes your management strategy. If you collect eggs early in the morning, as you would with other birds, the quail eggs will have spent the entire night exposed to potential predators, rodents, or sudden temperature drops. The true quail breeder knows that their main harvest is done when the sun starts to set. 4. Their incredible ability to store fertility. Picture this scenario. You remove the male from the pen because you want to change the genetic line, and you replace him with a different one. The next morning, you collect the eggs and put them in the incubator. Whose chicks are those? Surprise! Almost certainly, they belong to the previous male. The female quail possesses microscopic structures in the uterovaginal junction of her reproductive tract known as sperm storage tubules. When a male fertilizes her, her body does not waste all the sperm on a single ovum. Her reproductive system captures the strongest sperm, stores them in these folds, and keeps them alive, feeding and caring for them for up to 10 to 14 days. Every time she ovulates daily, she releases a few sperm from this reserve to fertilize the new egg. It is a brilliant survival mechanism. In the wild, if the male is eaten, the female can still secure a complete, fertile clutch all by herself. For you on the farm, this reproductive fact is pure gold for genetics. If you are going to do selective breeding to create a new line, you must wait at least 15 full days after removing the first male before collecting eggs for incubation, thus guaranteeing that the previous sperm reserve has been completely exhausted. 5. The secret of the last-minute painted spots. The Coturnix quail egg is famous worldwide for that beautiful pattern of freckles, dark spots, and earthy colors. But what few people know is how this design is formed. For 90% of the time the egg spends forming inside the mother's body, the shell is completely white, almost translucent. It is only in the last 3 or 4 hours before laying, when the egg is already completely hard and sitting in the shell gland, the bird's uterus, that the real reproductive magic happens. The walls of the uterus secrete organic pigments called porphyrins. The quail literally prints or paints these spots onto the egg right before pushing it out. The most fascinating part of this reproductive process is that it acts like a fingerprint. Every female has a unique pattern of muscle contractions in her uterus when applying the pigment. If you watch carefully, you can identify which egg belongs to which female in your pen, because each one paints her eggs with the exact same pattern for her entire life. Furthermore, this dark pigment is not just camouflage. Reproductive studies show it acts as a structural reinforcement, applying an extra layer in areas where the calcium shell is microscopically thinner. 6. The mothers who forgot how to incubate their chicks. Through thousands of years of evolution and, more recently, relentless selective breeding, we have transformed the Coturnix quail into the most efficient egg-laying machine on the planet. But every reproductive success has a price, and the quail paid with its maternal instinct. They simply forgot how to be mothers. In poultry, the desire to sit on eggs is called broodiness. This state is regulated by a hormone called prolactin. In a normal hen, when prolactin rises, the ovaries shut down, she stops laying eggs, and she sits in the nest to warm her clutch. In commercial quail, we have genetically selected the individuals that never stopped laying eggs, completely suppressing their prolactin levels over generations. The result is a bird that does not build a nest. She simply drops the egg in any corner of the cage or the floor and keeps walking as if nothing happened, with her ovary ready to produce another egg the very next day. That is why, in the modern reproduction of these birds, the artificial incubator is not just a support tool, it is the mandatory mechanical womb. Without our artificial intervention, your bird's bloodline would go extinct in a single generation. 7. The astonishing hidden size of the male's anatomy. When you look at a small male Coturnix quail, barely tipping the scale at 5 to 7 ounces, you would never imagine what he hides inside. In most animals, the reproductive organs are a minuscule fraction of their weight. However, the male quail breaks all anatomical rules when he hits his peak of sexual maturity. If you could see inside him during the active breeding stage, your jaw would drop. This incredible transformation is directly triggered by the photoperiod. When the daylight hours extend, his brain sends a massive signal to completely rebuild his internal reproductive system in a matter of days. His testicles grow at a monstrous rate, making up to 3% of his total body weight. To help you understand this better and see the magnitude of the situation, if an adult person had these same reproductive proportions, we would be talking about gigantic, incredibly heavy internal organs. This hypertrophy is not a freak of nature. It is the only biological way to sustain that frantic and wild mating pace we talked about in Part 1. They are literal sperm factories working on an industrial scale, 24 hours a day. As a breeder, this tells you something crucial. You cannot expect a male to keep up this pace on cheap, low-protein feed. You must provide a high-quality game bird breeder ration packed with essential amino acids and vitamins to fuel this continuous, exhausting internal factory. His nutrition is just as critical as the laying females. 8. The acoustic radar and the truth behind his loud crow. Everyone who keeps quail knows that loud, sharp, and peculiar crow the male makes that echoes through the coop. It is a guttural, almost metallic sound that can easily startle you if you are not expecting it. Many novice breeders think he is simply saying good morning, communicating with the flock, or marking territory, just like a conventional rooster does. But in this fascinating underworld, that sound is actually an acoustic radar strictly tied to his reproductive capacity. That crow is regulated solely and exclusively by the levels of testosterone circulating in the male's blood. It is not a social call. It is a public, highly competitive declaration of his genetic viability and potency. This acoustic radar is so precise that in a large covey, the most dominant and genetically superior males will literally drown out the weaker ones, ensuring the females only pay attention to the best available genetics. Females have incredibly sharp hearing and use the frequency, volume, and pitch of this crow to judge the reproductive health of the male before accepting to mate with him submissively. A constant and vigorous crow tells the female that this male has top-quality sperm. Best of all, this crow is your free fertility monitor on the homestead. If you walk in one day and there is an unusual silence among your breeders, it is a red alert. It means your male's testosterone has plummeted drastically due to stress, sudden drops in temperature, lack of light, or poor nutrition. When that happens, you can take it for granted that the reproductive eggs collected that week will come out of the incubator completely infertile. 9. The secret communication of chicks before hatching. This is one of the most mind-blowing and least known reproductive phenomena of incubation. Imagine you put 100 fertile eggs in your incubator. Inevitably, due to slight temperature variations in the corners of the machine, some embryos develop a bit faster than others. By pure logic, the hatches should be a scattered chaos over several days. But incredibly, almost all of them hatch within a tight window of just a few hours. How is this possible? It happens through a fascinating embryonic acoustic communication. About 3 days before hatching, when the chicks pierce the internal air cell and take their first breath, they start emitting subtle clicks, almost inaudible to you, but very loud and clear to them. The calcium carbonate shell, which seems completely solid to us, actually acts as an acoustic amplifier for these microscopic vibrations. The embryos literally talk to each other through the eggshells. The chicks that are further along emit a rhythmic clicking that directly stimulates the nervous system of the ones lagging behind, speeding up their tiny hearts and boosting their metabolism so they can catch up. In turn, the latecomers send signals that slightly slow down the fast ones. They synchronize their hatch like a highly trained military unit. This collective effort ensures that when the first chick breaks out, the others follow in a massive wave, completely overwhelming any potential predators in the area. This is exactly why you must never, ever open the incubator during the last 3 days. If you do, you drop the humidity, break this vital acoustic communication, and completely ruin the synchronized hatch, leaving many chicks trapped inside. 10. Genetic collapse and the deadly trap of crossing siblings. The Coturnix quail is a marvel of rapid reproduction, achieving mature new generations in just a few short weeks. But this tremendous advantage hides a silent trap that destroys entire homesteads if you do not master the rules of poultry genetics. These birds are incredibly, almost painfully susceptible to inbreeding depression. Unlike some heritage chicken breeds where you can practice careful line breeding for years to lock in specific traits, quail require a completely different approach. If you take a group of sibling chicks hatched from the same incubator and cross them with each other to produce your future breeders, you are committing biological suicide for your operation. Lethal and sublethal recessive genes bundle up incredibly fast in their DNA. By the third generation of close relative crosses, the reproductive disaster is total and obvious. The females will lay tiny eggs, the males will shoot blanks, and embryonic mortality will go through the roof. When you open the unhatched eggs, you will see dead embryos with crossed beaks, deformed legs, or unformed skulls. Many experienced homesteaders combat this by keeping 3 to 4 separate breeding pens and mathematically rotating the males to a different pen every single generation. To maintain elite reproduction and sky-high hatch rates, it is a strict law to constantly introduce new blood or utilize a spiral mating system to ensure that highly prized hybrid vigor. 11. The double yolk and the fatal illusion of giant eggs. Any breeder gets as excited as a kid when they find a giant quail egg in the cage, easily weighing double the usual ounces. It feels like you just hit the poultry jackpot. You immediately think it is the undisputed trophy of the farm, the perfect, robust candidate to put in the incubator and hatch a massive, super strong chick. But the harsh reproductive reality tells you that this giant egg is a severe glitch in the ovulation matrix. That massive egg has a double yolk. What happened internally was that the ovary of a usually young female, triggered by an abrupt excess of light or a massive protein spike, released 2 ova at exactly the same time. The oviduct got confused, went into overdrive, and packaged both of them into a single oversized calcium shell. While they are spectacular for eating at home for reproduction, they are an absolute death trap. You must never incubate a giant double yolk egg. If both embryos manage to get fertilized, they will desperately start competing for the little oxygen that enters through the shell's microscopic pores. Around day 12 or 13 of incubation, the physical space inside the shell completely collapses. If you were to open one of these eggs at this stage, you would see a heartbreaking scene. 2 perfectly formed miniature chicks tangled together, suffocating as they run out of air. It is a biological dead end that will only waste your valuable time and space in your machine. 12. Forced retirement and the free fall of fertility. We close this list of reproductive secrets with a harsh truth that many breeders absolutely refuse to accept, losing money, feed, and eggs for entire months in the process. Those of us who come from raising other poultry believe that a breeding male will serve us efficiently for years. but the hyper-accelerated metabolism of the Coturnix quail makes his reproductive lifespan brutally and painfully short. A male quail is a relentless and flawless reproductive machine only between 2 and 5 months of age. But starting in the 6th month, he falls off a steep biological cliff. This burnout is not just physical exhaustion, it happens at a cellular level. Under a microscope, the sperm of an older male shows a dramatic decrease in motility. Their tiny tails simply stop swimming efficiently, and many are deformed. Even if you see him very active in the covey, chasing females and performing the act of copulation with high energy, the actual quality and quantity of his sperm completely plummet. Many breeders fill their incubators feeling super confident seeing their active males, and 18 days later they pull out entire trays of clear, rotten, and infertile eggs. They blame the incubator's temperature, the humidity, or the weather, when the sad reality is that the male has already naturally retired genetically. It is the cost of doing business with a bird that lives its life in the fast lane. If you want to maintain professional hatch rates above 85%, replacing your breeding males exactly every 6 months is not friendly advice. It is an unbreakable rule in quail breeding. As you have seen throughout this video, quail reproduction is not simply throwing a few males and females into a cage, tossing them some game bird feed, and sitting back to wait for a miracle. It is a fascinating biological clock full of high-speed hormonal explosions, secret acoustic communication inside the incubator, and strict genetic rules that absolutely do not forgive mistakes. Knowing these 12 secrets inside out gives you the absolute power to predict problems, maximize the fertility of your eggs, and take your homestead to a truly professional and highly profitable level. It is not about working harder in the coop. It is about breeding with strategic intelligence. Now it is your turn to join the community. Let me know down below in the comment box which of these last 6 reproductive secrets surprised you the most, or what major mistake you were making on your farm without even knowing it. If all this technical information blew your mind and brought real, actionable value to your project, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel right now, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any of our upcoming masterclasses on poultry genetics and elite production. To your success, fellow breeder. Until next time.